Righto, so when we first left on our travels, this first rig here, our 2012 Mazda BT50, it didn't quite handle the load of the van with the springs that we'd put in it. So we had to use a weight distribution hitch between the tow bar and the van, just to level that ride height up while we travelled in our first lap. Got onto Airbag Man, they've sent me a kit. I'm gonna put it in myself and show you how to do it, but that'll eliminate the need for me to run a weight distribution hitch. So it comes in the post. You just get one neat little package like this. Inside you've got a couple of airbags, a few brackets, bit of air hose, full set of instructions, and a bag of fittings and bolts and nuts and stuff. So I've part assembled the airbags here ready to go. Really easy to do. There's also a lot of YouTube videos from their workshop at Airbag Man that tells you hints and tips, especially on things like cutting the air tube properly, where to fit the bags, how to remove the bump stops, all that kind of stuff. It makes the job nice and easy, but if you're not confident at doing it yourself, make sure you take it to a local dealer. They got plenty of stockists around that will actually fit it for you. It's a vital piece of componentry because it is part of your suspension, your drive line. So anyway, for me, I'm a qualified mechanic. I'm going to do it myself. So the first step is to get underneath, loosen your U-bolts off, your springs, and take your bump stop out. So make sure your vehicle's nice and safe, park it up, handbrake on, wheel chocks on. Make sure you're not going to get squished just trying to fit some airbags. So this is what the airbag looks like. Nice simple little unit. You put a bracket on the top and the bottom, and that mounts between the top of your leaf springs already and the chassis of your car. You remove the bump stop because that's where this sits, and then you just put an air fitting in the top there. It's just a push lock fitting. Nice and easy. Push it in like that, locks in. If you need to remove the hose, you just hold the collar, pull it back out. Piece of cake. Only one good tip with this is make sure you don't cut it with a set of pliers or side cutters. It can crush the tube, it can damage it, and then you won't get a good seal on the air fitting. Make sure you use a nice sharp Stanley knife on a hard surface and just chop straight through. Righto, once the bump stops are out of there, it's time to fit the bags. You've already pre-assembled the top half of them, that top bracket. I come up with a little trick just to use a bit of air hose, crimp it over on the end. When you squeeze the airbag down, you can pop that bit of air hose in the fitting and it'll stop it from re-inflating. Gives you that extra bit of room when you're trying to squeeze it between your leaf spring and the chassis of your car. So a little bit different between the right hand and the left hand bracket. The right hand one uses a tag nut that you've got to insert through the chassis from the outside. And then the top bracket has a bolt that retains it through there. On the left-hand side, you actually remove one of the bolts that holds your brake line bracket onto the chassis. And when you install the airbag, you put that bolt back in through the bracket and the airbag mount. So pretty simple really. You put them in, bolt them up. There's a retaining bolt that goes on the bottom clamp too on your U-bolts. And run your airline fitting from an easy accessible place. I've seen people put them through the bumpers and that. I just made a little mount for mine to go on top of my trailer plug. You've got two Schrader valves there for inflation. Nice easy access, and then you can just run your cabling up along the chassis rail, zip tied in the conduit supplied so it doesn't get damaged. Don't run it near the exhaust or anything sharp that it's going to rub on. And then just insert them into your airbags and you're good to go. Just remember there's also in the instruction there's a minimum ride height too. For these ones it's 5.5 to 6.5 inches that airbag needs to be. So you do need to keep a bit of air in them at all times, otherwise they'll probably fail on you a bit early. So one of the critical bits of info when you're fitting them, make sure once they're done, measure the standard height from the center of your hub to your wheel arch, and that's your standard travel height. Then once the load's hooked up or your caravan, you remeasure that and you inflate your airbags to get that standard travel height back. But you've got to check on the back here in the instructions, it gives you a maximum PSI rating for the bags. So for these ones, it's 40 PSI. So when I've got the load on the van, I can only take it to 40 maximum, but I don't reckon I'll need that. I'm not too far off it with the springs in it. These are just a bit of a helper. So that's the install done. Only a couple of hours out of my day. The bags are in, tested, back up to ride height, and the pressure in them is only 30 PSI. So I'm still 10 under the maximum for the bags. Piece of cake. Next installment, I reckon I'll probably go for the onboard air control, which means I can control it from in the cab, have an onboard compressor, digital readout of how much air's in each bag, and I can inflate and deflate from the comfort of the driver's seat. So stay tuned for that one, and we'll give these a good run and let you know how they go. Cheers guys, check them out. Airbag Man, they're the way to go I reckon.